guys, it is me, Jacqueline. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time here. For today's video, I'm going to be doing the mid-year freakout book tag. I've been seeing so many fellow booktubers do this, and now that I know it's officially mid-year, I feel like this year is really going by so fast, but I am very excited to be doing this tag. I've always wanted to do this tag, and funny enough, this is actually the first year I've ever done it, so if you guys have not done this as well, I'm going to be leaving all the questions down below, and this is me officially tagging you, so let me know if you already have done it or if you haven't done it and will be planning on doing it, because I want to watch everyone's. This is just one of my favorite tags, so I'm personally excited to be doing it today, and let's get started. So question number one is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2020? I'm not going to lie, two books definitely come in mind when it comes to this question, so I'm just going to say both of them. The first one is probably an obvious, and that is Crescent City from Sarah J. Maas. Now, if you guys have been kind of watching me for the past couple of months, I've been raving about this book ever since I first read it. I read it like twice within the first week of me reading it the first time. This is actually a signed copy. I purposely ordered this one because I loved it so much. It is just overall one of my favorite books I read this year because I just feel like this came at the right timing for me. It's an adult fantasy series, but I felt like with the characters and the plot elements, I absolutely bawled my eyes out during this book. I was just so emotionally invested in this story, and I cannot wait to see what else will be coming from this series. So if you want to know all my official thoughts, I'll leave my review up in the card as well as down below. It is spoiler free. My other favorite book of the year is actually Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga. I cannot stop thinking about this story. It is a middle grade. It is actually written in verse. In this story, we follow a 12-year-old girl who is going from Syria to Cincinnati, Ohio, and it was just so well done. I love Jasmine Warga. I had read one of her other previous books before, but when I read this story, I flew through it. I loved the fact it was actually written in verse, and I just felt like our main character, I was so invested in her story. I thought so many of the quotes was just so relevant, even the topics discussed and the issues that were brought up into it. I could not recommend this story enough. Question number two is best sequel you've read so far in 2020, and that was very easy for me as well. It is definitely Find Me Their Bones from Sarah Wolf. This is the sequel to Bring Me Their Hearts from Sarah Wolf, which I love that book. That came out in 2018, and I finally read this one this year because I believe this came out end of last year, and it was so good. I think what I love so much about this entire trilogy in general is our main character, Zara. She has just become one of my ultimate favorites, and I feel like the character dynamics in here I really enjoy, the plot element in here I enjoy, and even the fantastical stuff, I just think it's so well developed, and it's just become one of my favorite trilogies. The third book part of this trilogy is coming out in November. Sarah Wolf actually just tweeted she got her edits in the mail, so I cannot wait for November to come around because it's definitely one of my most anticipated book releases, and if you haven't checked out this trilogy yet, I would highly recommend it. Especially this sequel surprised me so much when it came to how the story has evolved, and there was a dynamic between our main character and a creature in here that I really enjoyed because I just really wasn't expecting that, but I think it got us to actually look more at Zara's character when it came to a specific part of her. Question number three is new release you haven't read yet but want to, and for that I have A Song Below Water, which is from Bethany C. Morrow. So this actually came out on June 2nd. It was out of stock for a little bit, but I'm finally actually getting it in the mail. I want to do a whole recommendations video where I talk all about mermaids. I just love mermaid books, and this definitely speaks right up my alley. We follow two sisters, which I love sister kind of dynamics, and it is all about black mermaids, friendships, self-discovery, and it even says it focuses on racism and sexism in here. So I cannot wait to read this book, and also the cover, come on, it's beautiful. So this is definitely one I cannot wait to read soon. Next we have question number four, which is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I've already mentioned this a couple times, but I cannot wait for Send Me Their Souls, which is the third book of part of the Bring Me Their Hearts series. I also am really excited for V.E. Schwab's newest release that comes out in October. I actually got a NetGalley arc of it, so I will be reading that very soon and getting my thoughts out there. I am currently reading Legendborn. That's another one of my anticipated releases. I got an ARC for that as well, and I am loving it so far. I will definitely be doing a review for this one. I feel like I have been fortunate enough to get a lot of the books that I was most anticipating in ARC form. It's really Send Me Their Souls is the one I don't have that I cannot wait to get my hands on. Question number 5 is biggest disappointment, and that is one that I just read, and this book I almost want to do a rant review on, but I feel like if I do a rant review on, I'll just make myself upset. It's called The Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea. Overall, was so disappointed in this book. This was one of my most anticipated book releases. It had so many concepts that I was excited for. I felt like our characters we didn't really get enough of and development of. I felt like the world building and the way that this was kind of set up and placed and developed was very choppy and weird. I just wanted so much from this story, and I felt like it was cut short, or things were kind of just like arranged weird. This was one of my definite least favorite books I've read this year, but definitely one of my most disappointing reads I have read this year. Question number 6 is biggest surprise, and I knew I was going to like enjoy this book, but I didn't think I was going to love this as much as I did, and that is From Blood and Ash from Jennifer L. Armentrout. I have already read this like 3 times. I loved this book, and I realized Bring Me Their Hearts and From Blood and Ash, I don't know why I always want to say From Ash and Blood, but it's From Blood and Ash. I can see so many different parallels between the two, and I understand why I love both of them because they're kind of similar in a way, or at least the romance is a little bit similar. So From Blood and Ash, we follow our main female protagonist, and she is the maiden in her world. There's a lot of religion elements that are involved in this story. We do have paranormal creatures almost, but they're not really specifically called like vampires and werewolves and such, but I see them as those. I was just so surprised by how much I loved the romance and our characters, and I read this so fast. I remember this was during actually my finals for spring semester, and I really shouldn't have gotten addicted into this story, but once I started with this, I could not stop, and I was just so shocked by how much I actually loved it. So this is definitely one of the best surprises I have had from this year. And do I feel like everyone would love this? No, but I was here for it. The romance was chef's kiss. It was literally hate to love, and we had just like all the angst and the banter. I just want to reread it now. Me thinking about it, I'm like 4th time's a charm. Question number 7 is favorite new author, debut, or new to you. So I'm going to have to say this author is new to me, and that would be Tracy Wolff. I really actually enjoyed Crave. This is definitely the new Twilight for our generation, but why I think I liked this so much was the setting was really cool. It takes place in Alaska, and yes, the angst is very much there, and a lot of it just reminds me of Twilight from that, like the beginning portion of Twilight very much is similar in that dynamic. But what's really cool about this is the paranormal elements and the fantastical elements in here is like the cool stuff that was in Twilight. Like I remember Breaking Dawn, I thought it was so interesting, some of the other vampires and their powers. So this has the cool parts of that in here, and it also has other paranormal elements as well, like witches and stuff. So I really actually enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to the sequel. I have a feeling I'm going to even love this sequel more. So this is definitely a new author to me. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush. That is 110% Hunt from Blood and Ash. I am not kidding you. This man is up there on my man crushes now. Like he, my heart, like I'm just, I can't. If you've read this book, you understand it, but he just speaks volumes to me. He is what I look for in my love interest, and he is definitely my new fictional crush. Question number 9 is newest favorite character, and I'm also going to say From Blood and Ash, and that's going to be Poppy, just because I was not expecting to love her character as well, and yet again her character just reminded me of Zara kind of in a way, but also another character or the love interest with Zara in her book. So it was just so many nice things. Like From Blood and Ash is just so good. It's definitely up there as one of my favorites, but definitely my newest crush is in this book. My newest favorite character is in this book. I just am here for it. I can't wait for the sequel. I don't know when it's going to come out, but I need it in my life. If you read this book, you understand the ending. We all need the newest book. Question number 10 is book that made you cry. I already mentioned this. Crescent City. I sobbed like a baby. You could not bother me when I was reading this book because I only could have thought about this story, and I think I actually immediately reread it just from the ending. I was like, after I read the entire ending and got over it kind of and settled down, I wanted to restart the entire experience, and the beginning also had me crying, but the ending, sobbing. Question number 11 is book that made you happy, and this was actually a reread for me, which is why I think I was so happy, because I loved An Ember in the Ashes when I first read it all the way back in like 2017, 2018, and it was the first time I actually got to reread it this year, and I loved it. I was planning on reading the sequel and the third book because we have the fourth book coming out at the end of this year, but I actually started this right before my finals, my spring finals, and I got thrown into that, and then I started from Blood and Ashes and kind of was in a little bit of like a weird reading slump funk. So I definitely need to actually read the second and third book so I can get excited for the fourth and final book, but this book definitely makes me so happy. It just reminded me how much I actually loved this story and these characters, and I would highly recommend this series. I mean, I haven't read the entire one, but this first book is so good. Question number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. To be honest, I think it's one of the books I just bought, but I absolutely love this book. I think this is such a stunning book in general. It is the Pan's Labyrinth, and I still have not finished this, guys. I think I talked about it. I stopped on page 39. I need to continue on to this, but I really enjoyed it when I was reading it, and there's something about this cover to me that I think is just one of the most eye-catching in my book collection. It is a little bit weirdly sized compared to some other books in my collection, but I don't even mind that because it's just so stunning to me. And then number 13 is what books do you want to read by the end of the year? I have so many on my list. I want to read all the books I have on my to keep or not to keep TBR, which include the Ember in the Ashes books, so I definitely want to do those. I wanted to actually do series summer again, so where I actually complete all of series and read them through. I wanted to vlog. So I have so many books. I want to say a ton are the ones on my shelves, honestly, that I want to get through, and any arcs that I have. So those are kind of the remaining books that I want to get through this year, which is pretty much all the books. So I am just trying to work my way through. I am planning on finishing Legendborn and getting on to some arcs, like NetGalley arcs I have, and then I wanted to move on to my to keep or not to keep TBR again and finish that all the way through. So I do have books still that I want to read. It's just finishing them, going on and down the list, down my TBR list. So thank you guys so much for watching. I am so looking forward to seeing all your guys' answers, even if it's in the comments or if you make your own videos. I absolutely just love this tag through and through. It is always so much fun to see other people answer these questions. So let me know what you guys thought of my answers, or if you have your own answers to these questions, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!